thank you for joining us again for our therapy chat. My name is Dr. Dawn Parks, and with me today is Christine DesLauriers, LICSW and addiction specialist. We want to start out by saying happy holidays.
Happy holidays, happy new year.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about New Year's resolutions, setting goals. So many people set New Year's resolutions. It's almost, I don't know, I remember even when we were little, we'd set, next year I'm going to do this or this or this. And so many people do that, but such a high percentage actually, I don't know, by the end of January, no more goals. So we are thinking that today might be a nice thing to do, to talk about how we can set New Year's resolutions and how we can increase the likelihood of following through with those goals and plans. So when we talk about goal setting, it's something that is a process. There are lots of times we say, okay, I want this to happen, but then we don't have a plan of how to get there. So we're kind of talking about the destination, but not the journey.
Yes, and I think also people set very large, broad goals, and sometimes those are just not really attainable. So I would suggest people maybe think about breaking things down into smaller steps.
Okay. So in a little bit, we're going to put up a graphic that talks about what we call SMART goals. We'll do that in a little bit. But in general, when we're thinking about our goals, we have to think, number one, is this something that we really want? Or is it just some kind of a passing thing? How much do I really want to do this? How much do I really want to make this happen? How much time am I willing to put into it? What resources do I have?
Yeah, I think you're referring really to the realistic part of the goal. And again, that's, can you fit that in? Can you really fit that into your schedule? Are you going to do this all by yourself? If going to the gym, for example, is a goal, how likely are you to do it by yourself? Or is it better if you make the goal with a friend because you can motivate each other? Things like that. Sometimes they'll set this broad, sort of unrealistic goal, and then they're not going to keep up with it, and then they feel terribly disappointed in themselves. As a result, they feel kind of like a failure once again. I didn't follow through.
I think a nice a tip, if people are not already doing this too, is to write down the goal. There's a saying that until you write it down, it's just a dream. It's just in your head. When you actually put that down on paper, it becomes something that's real, that you can see, that you can look at, and it can act as a motivator too. Whatever goal it is, big, small, same process. Putting that goal up somewhere where you can actually see it. It might be on your mirror, it might be on your laptop, but somewhere where it's a reminder. Else what happens is we get so into this goal or goals for a week or two, and then things get busy, and then they kind of fade, and then perhaps sometime in March or April we say, remember those goals that we never what happened? It's funny with health clubs, fitness clubs, the sales goes up so high. December, January. Lots of people take out. It's a big thing. I'm going to work out this year. I'm going to get as fit as I possibly can. We go to the gym and we go 5 times a week for 3 weeks, and then we stop. So having some plan that we can set that is going to put us in a position where we are setting ourselves up for success rather than setting ourselves up for failure.
Yes, and I think too, if we can identify a time of the day that might work better for us. Sometimes, for example, the gym example, we'll say, well, we're going to go to the gym, but we might go all different times of the day during the week depending on our work schedule, which, I mean, I understand how that happens, but we're not at a consistent time, so it's not part of a routine. It becomes sort of catch us catch can, and that's very easy to sort of put that to the side and not give it the attention. And if we have a set time every day that we're planning to go to the gym, we're more apt to keep to that schedule.
That's a good point. Right. There's a little fact here that there was a study from the done by the University of Scranton, and their numbers were, out of all of the people who set goals, the achievement rate, the follow-through rate, all the way to the achievement is about 8%. It's really
Low.
It's really low.
Yeah.
And here, Michigan State University did a study. 76% of people who wrote their goals successfully achieved them, compared to those who didn't write them down. There was only a 42% achievement rate.
It's almost double.
Yeah, so it's not, although it's not for everyone, it seems that writing them down does have a fairly strong impact. Okay, so let's look at our graphic now. SMART goals. The first one is be specific. So it's the more detail you can get on setting your goal, the more likely you are to meet it. So being vague, for example, saying, I want to feel better this year. I want to feel healthier this year. I want to gain weight or lose weight this year. Is very vague. So being able to define exactly what you want to do. So my goal this year may be I want to lose, by the end of the year, 15 pounds. Or I want to have completed 3 courses in a particular subject that I enjoy. Or I want to travel to at least 3 out-of-state places within the next 6 months. We're starting to be really, really clear what we're trying to achieve. The vaguer the goal, the less likely we are to achieve it. How do we know we've achieved it if it wasn't really that clear in the beginning, right? So number one, specific. Who's involved? Do I need? Is this a goal where I'm dependent on someone else or something else as well? What exactly do I want to accomplish? And why is the goal so important?
Yes, I think the more detailed you can get, the better. And I think it's good, as I said, to break it down in stages, too. You know, if you're able to really get detailed about what you want, I'm going to lose weight. How are you going to do that? Going to go to the gym, maybe what you're going to work on different days of the week. You can almost write a schedule for yourself, which can motivate you if you have it posted. You know, you mentioned writing it down and putting it somewhere where you can see it. You know, you can look at that every day, and it reminds you when the day gets busy that, I have to work this into my day too. Right.
That actually comes into up in therapy a lot in our sessions, which we will be talking about next session. But when we're working with a client, we'll say, you know, are there certain things that you want to see happen in our course of therapy? And being able to define something clearly sets that person up in a much more likely direction to achieve it. sometimes someone will say, I just want to be happier. And it's so, what does that mean? So we'll start in therapy by defining what actually does that mean. What are the components there that we have to look at? And it may be actually a goal for each of the components that together create happy.
Well, I think also that's about envisioning it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can talk about that and not just write it down, but you start envisioning it in your mind,
Mm-hmm.
that also can be a powerful motivator for you as well, and a reminder to keep you going because you're picturing it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Next one, measurable. So is my goal measurable? So how will I know when I've achieved my goal? So if there's no component of measuring to it, then that makes it a little vaguer too, because I have no way of measuring it. So, for example, if my goal is I want to start a walking program, so how far are we talking, a marathon or a mile? So the goal has to begin where I'm at, right? If I know that I can barely walk a quarter mile, then 15 miles might not be doable. So if I can make my goal measurable, I can walk a quarter mile and my goal is a mile, and I'm going to expect that in a month from now I'm walking a half a mile regularly, 3 to 5 times a week, and then a month later I'm walking a mile. But because then I can look back, and we know that when we set any kind of goal, it's not always easy. So having it be a measurable goal can help a lot in motivation, because I can look back now and I can say, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. I feel like giving up. Nothing's happening. But then I can look back and say, wait a minute, I was at a quarter, then I was at a half, now I was at 3/4, and now I'm at nearly a mile. So I have made progress, even though it might be slow. It can be a great motivator as well.
Yeah, and I think that also brings to mind progress, not perfection. So I would remind people to be a little gentle with yourself, and I would set the goals a little bit smaller, perhaps at first, and see how well you meet those, and you can always increase them. And you're going to feel better about yourself if you increase the goal than if you have to decrease it, because you feel like, oh, I can't make that mile. I can only do half a mile. Then you feel bad about yourself. Set it at half a mile, and then if you're able to meet that fairly quickly, then you can go up to the next level, and you'll be very happy with yourself. You'll be much more motivated, and you'll probably stay doing your goal and your program a whole lot longer.
True. Yeah. Which brings us to the next point. Is it attainable? As we said earlier, we want to set ourselves up for success and not for failure. And although we don't usually intentionally set ourselves up for failure, it's so common that, you talk to someone about goals that they've had in the past, and they'll say, never work out, But often it's because the goal was too big. Just like you were saying, it's too big. I never go to the gym, and I'm seeing myself running a marathon in 9 months, and it's not doable. So what's going to happen is I'm going to feel really bad about myself, probably really frustrated or angry with myself, and probably just give up. Right? And what might happen is that I just don't set any goals, because I have a pattern of setting goals that are just not realistic, right? So question is it attainable? Is this a goal that I can actually do? Is it something achievable? Another thing that falls into that area is if it's a goal that I want to achieve, but it's dependent on a few other people or my place of employment. I can't control those other factors. So even though I really, really want to achieve the goal, it might not be attainable, at least at this point, because the other factors involved are not wanting to move in that same direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So asking myself when I'm setting up these goals, are these doable, these goals doable? So different between wanting to do it and actually being able to do it, right? Which would bring us into a whole other area too, because at that point we'd be problem solving. We'd be saying, oh, I really want to do this, but right now I can't, so how can I figure out perhaps a solution to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another point is that it's always good to have a few different goals. We talked, I think probably 2 sessions ago, about the holidays and everything, everyone wanting to reach this ultimate perfect holiday, and then this kind of a fall at the end of the holidays. Everyone's exhausted and tired, and you often see a kind of depression that happens in early January.
Mm-hmm.
When you have only one goal, one big goal, and that's it, and you devote 100% of your time and effort and thinking and emotions into this one goal, often even when you achieve it, which is great, there's nothing afterwards. It's like this, well, I got to my goal and I'm on the edge of a cliff and there's nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of combat that, it's a good idea to have a long-term goal, an intermediate goal, and a small goal. So it might be my goal for today, right? And then I have another goal which is, 2-3 months from now, and there may be another goal that is a year from now. So I'm always working on one or the other, and as I'm achieving one, I'm creating another, and if one doesn't work, I still have my others, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not this laser focus. Occasionally, depending on circumstances, there is a need to be laser focused on something, but in general, having a few different goals, different difficulty levels, is a good thing to have too.
Yeah, that falls into breaking things down into steps and stages.
Yes.
I think that's very important
Yeah.
because you need to reward yourself early on.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if the goal is too far out,
Mm-hmm.
you lose enthusiasm for it because you're not getting reinforced.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to really feel good about yourself and congratulate yourself for little steps along the way, and then you will reach those bigger milestones.
Yeah, so the rewards are really, really important, and whatever they are and however that works for you, but it's important to have some kind of a reward, and depending, you may work it out depending on the difficulty level of that goal, right? It may be a small thing. Some people will choose, say, 5 things that they would really like. Reasonable, but small gifts for themselves that they reasonably like. But to keep the component of kind of a little bit of excitement, they'll wrap all the gifts and put them in a basket. And when they achieve a level of their goal, they'll just take one of them out. They don't know what it is, but they know it's something they like. But to keep that going is really an important thing. Anything else on that?
No, I think that leads into the next stage, which is having your goal relevant. Because that's important too. If you want to attain it and you want to keep it alive for you, you have to have it relevant to what you're doing and to your interest and where you're at in life.
Brings to mind, for example, say someone who is very sedentary and they read somewhere. I mean, usually the guidelines set for a good level of activity are about 20 minutes. It's not an enormous amount, but 20 to 30 minutes a day of activity. And often you'll see a person say, okay, so to meet that criteria, I'm going to start running. But they don't like running, and they hate it. And so it feels more like a punishment, right? But the thing is running, or it's walking, or it's weight training. I don't like those. So it really has to be personalized to you and to who you are. I mean, really, the definition of of this daily 20 minutes or so of activity is large muscle group. I mean, that is something. So it doesn't really fit the criteria if you are doing puzzles, right? Although it might be enjoyable and relaxing. So it is, but it is a large muscle activity. But it could be swimming, skiing.
Well, I think you have to think too, also if you have physical complication, if you have a disability, or if you are, you had an injury, you have something that, even arthritis, whatever, something that prohibits you, let's say, from running. And so you feel like, well, if I want to run or walk, I can't, so you just nix it all. I think it's important to look at alternatives. So what could you do? I mean, maybe you could ride a bike, whether it's a regular bike or a stationary bike, or you suggested the swimming. There are other alternatives where you could get some physical activity. Probably would be very doable, and you wouldn't have to pick something that you're just not going to follow through with, because physically it's going to be painful for you.
So finding a match, something that you like. That's the other thing I forgot to say, dancing. So, and when we say dancing, people will say, well, I'm not a dancer. You don't have to be a dancer. It really means just moving. Yeah. Moving in any way. And the last one, as we're coming to the end of this session, is it needs to be time bound. So we want to having some kind of an estimate of about how long we're looking at this is a big thing, especially for more difficult goals, because sometimes you feel that this is really challenging, but that it's a few more weeks. Right? It makes a difference between having no end point. How do I know when I've achieved my goal, right? So setting the goal is really important, but also having some end point, right? So this goal right now that I have is a 3-month goal. Well, going back to our fitness, it may be by the end of the year, I want to have a body fat composition that is significantly lower than I'm at now, right? I want to be at 24.5, for example, of body fat. And I want to be running 5 miles easily 3 times a week. My 6-month goal may be that, I'm running 2 miles 3 times a week. But then I may have a daily goal, right, of just, daily goal might be half a mile or a mile. At least. That's my goal. If I want to go more, I can go more. But my minimum is that 3 to 4 times a week. So now all of these are moving towards the big main goal, but they're all at different time intervals. So I think if we follow the SMART goals and we take time to assess where we want to be, what we want to achieve, for each of these categories, then we're much more likely to set ourselves up to succeed, to achieve.
Yeah, I like the idea of the time-limited goals and rewarding yourself sooner. I think that, as I said, that's much more encouraging. And people need that. They need to feel good about themselves, like they're on the right path and It's very helpful.
Yeah. And just to throw one more thing in, when we're talking about addictions or when we're talking about mood, depression or severe anxiety, our goal may be to get through the next 5 minutes.
Right. I mean,
You know,
that's true.
you
I mean,
know.
the goals can be as
Very, very
small as you want
Right.
in terms of,
Right.
stages.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because having a goal of, I want to be feeling better than I am right now in a situation like that, you have to break it down into small steps. Let's just focus on how am I going to get through this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So thank you for joining us today. Hope you learned some helpful, useful information about setting goals. And if you have anything that you'd like to discuss or you'd like to see us discuss or any questions about today, you can reach us at drparks@phoenixinfo.online, or you can call us at 508-623-3931. Thank you and happy holidays.